em flagrante. Mais da metade dos homicídios cometidos por Pedrinho foram dentro da prisão. Hoje à tarde, o homem confessou muitas mortes e falou com a imprensa. Nossa equipe perguntou a ele se sente remorso e ele disse que não.
Não é questão de uma vez a pessoa pensa que a gente é louco, entendeu? Porque mata qualquer um, não é questão disso. Matei muitas pessoas que não valem nada, estuprador, malandrão demais, traiçoeiro, fui muito traído, tem que matar os traidores, entendeu? Então tem que me defender, aqueles que têm amigo, tem que se vingar, tem que lutar. Eu, para ser sincero, o que eu matei eu não tenho remorso nenhum até agora. Porque é tudo que não vale merda nenhuma.
In Brazil, the name Pedro Rodrigues Filho is associated with violence and murder. Rodrigues is one of the most notorious serial killers Brazil has ever seen. Also known as Pedrinho Matador or Killer Petey, Rodrigues was known to prey on other criminals. In line with his choice of victims, Rodrigues murdered some 47 prisoners while he was incarcerated. Altogether, it is estimated that Rodrigues has taken over 100 people's lives in cold blood from 1967 to 2003. Rodrigues might have thought he was dishing out justice while murdering known criminals, but underlying such delusional thinking is a dark mind that, from a young age, had always been thirsty for blood. Pedro Rodrigues was nothing more than a psychopath with a misguided sense of self-righteousness. In truth, he was no different from any other psychotic serial killer. But what was the motivation behind his murderous lifestyle? Who were his victims? How and why did he kill them? And what has become of the man known in Brazil as Pedrinho Matador? We will be answering these questions in this video as we look through the life of this bloodthirsty serial killer. Pedro Rodrigues Filho was born on July 17, 1954. He was born on a farm in Brazil, and almost like some sort of prophecy, he was born with a bruised skull that arose from a fight between his father and his mother while she was pregnant with him. During the fight, Rodrigues' father kicked his wife on the belly, inflicting an injury on the unborn child. As you can see, Rodrigues was born into a violent family, an environment that would mold him into the psychopath that he would become one step at a time. Rodrigues' childhood was problematic. Before he was born, he had already felt the damaging effect of an abusive father, but he would feel the full brunt of his father's behavior while he was still an infant. Rodrigues' father constantly abused him. For Rodrigues, it was a baptism of fire. The birth of a life of destruction and death was sown in him by his father. Living in a home where he felt rejected by his father, Rodrigues turned to anger, hatred, and violence. And just as he had learned from his father, Rodrigues began to see violence as the ultimate solution to every challenge. He would later reveal that the first time he felt the urge to kill, he was just 13 years old. 13 years old, wow. Rodrigues got into a serious fight with his older cousin. It was during the physical combat that a thought crossed his mind that he could end his cousin's life once and for all. The idea that sprung up in Rodrigues' mind was to force his cousin into a sugarcane press where he would be crushed to death. Rodrigues did not just play with that thought in his mind, however. He executed it, forcing his older cousin against a sugarcane press, but luckily, the murder attempt was unsuccessful. Nevertheless, for the first time, Rodrigues had succumbed to that dark instinct to kill. The experience disbanded any kind of inhibition that he had. He was no longer restrained. Rodrigues had now opened his mind to the thought of taking another person's life. 1 year after almost crushing his cousin to death, Rodrigues would commit his first murder. Rodrigues' first murder was done in defense of his father. I'm not surprised. At least that is what he thought he was doing. The deputy mayor of Santa Rita had fired his father from his position as a school guard. He was let go from his position following the accusation that he had stolen food from the school kitchen. When Rodrigues heard what happened, he was incensed. And just as he had learned from his younger days, he could not help but think the only way to solve this problem was through violence. only that his idea of violence was extreme. It was fatal. You can believe that. Rodriguez picked up a shotgun belonging to his grandfather, walked into the city hall, spotted the deputy mayor, and shot him in his chest. But he was not done. His father had been accused of stealing food, but Rodriguez was dead sure his father was guilty. There was another security guard in the school who was suspected to be the actual thief, but to Rodriguez, he was no suspect. As far as Rodriguez was concerned, the security guard was an actual thief. So after killing the deputy mayor, Rodriguez turned his attention to the security guard and shot him to death. Now, can you believe this? Rodriguez was just 14 years old at the time. But he had committed a crime that's notorious as this in public, where there were many witnesses. It was clear to him that after committing those heinous crimes, there would be no place for him in the city. He ran to the greater Sao Paulo to seek refuge, but this was where he would finally unleash the evil in him. At Sao Paulo, Rodriguez began to rob drug dens and kill drug traffickers. He took up the duties of the traffickers he had killed and found himself embroiled in a gang war where he had to eliminate rival gang members. During this time, he met a woman named Marie Olympia, who was better known in the streets of Botina. Rodriguez moved in with her and they started living together. Not long after, she became pregnant. Sadly, Botina was caught in a crossfire between the gangs when she was murdered by a rival gang member. Broken, but with no way to defend himself, Rodriguez fled the neighborhood. He retreated and regrouped, enlisting soldiers into his camp as he set up his own business. With Rodriguez now with some level of independence, he set out to avenge the death of his companion and her unborn child. Rodriguez set out a personal mission, torturing and killing several people in a bid to find out the identity of the person who killed his partner and unborn child. It did not take long before Rodriguez found the ex-wife of the gang leader who killed his partner. During a wedding party, Rodriguez and 4 friends of his paid a visit to this gang leader. Rodriguez and his men left the party with 7 men dead and 16 others wounded. Rodriguez had not turned 18 years old yet. Rodriguez was now in his demonic elements. Nothing was going to stop him. While still in Mogi, he found out his father had killed his mother in a fight by inflicting 21 machete blows on her. Rodriguez's father was already in jail for his crime, but that did not stop Rodriguez. By his estimation, the jail term was no justice for the death of his mother. So, Rodriguez paid his father a visit in his cell. He stabbed his father 22 times, one more than the number of blows his father had inflicted on his mother with a machete. But he did not stop there. Rodriguez ripped out his father's heart from his chest. He also chewed a portion of it and spat it out. It was as disturbing a sight as you would ever see. It was not long before the law caught up with Rodriguez. He was arrested for the first time on May 24th, 1973. In one incident, Rodriguez was transported in a vehicle with another prisoner. The police put Rodriguez on a muffler during the trip and assured both he and the other prisoner were handcuffed. But on arrival at their destination, the police found the other prisoner dead. Evidently, Rodriguez had found a way to kill him, and he did not deny it. Instead, he said that his companion was a rapist and therefore deserved to be killed. Even in prison, Rodriguez was unrelenting. Those who were incarcerated with him testified that he was a phenomenon in prison. Despite the harsh conditions of prison life, Rodriguez was able to handle himself and survive in prison for so long. Rodriguez killed and wounded as many prisoners as he considered necessary to stay alive in prison. In prison, Rodriguez killed for fun. Not only did he feel no remorse about it, but he found pleasure doing it. His justification was that they were criminals anyway, and they deserved to die. So I know you all probably getting some Dexter Morgan vibes. If you haven't seen that series, check it out. It was on Netflix, but I'm pretty sure you can find it on Amazon Prime. Back to it. Rodriguez once killed his cellmate because he snored too much. He also killed another fellow prisoner simply because he did not like his face. Rodriguez found himself in a house of criminals. For him, this was a killing haven. He could simply make a pick on any day and make his kill. And to let everyone know that he was not to be messed with, Rodrigues tattooed on his left arm the phrase, "I kill for pleasure." Wow. In prison, Rodrigues' action obviously drew attention to itself. Some prisoners understandably hated him and wanted him dead. One time, 5 prisoners ambushed Rodrigues to kill him. In the end, Rodrigues ended up killing 3 of them while the other 2 managed to escape. When Rodrigues was first incarcerated, he was sentenced to 126 years in prison. However, due to a Brazilian law that prohibited the incarceration of people beyond 30 years, Rodrigues was scheduled to be released in 2003. But while in prison, Rodrigues committed even more murders, not surprising. His sentence increased from 126 to 400 years by the Department of Justice. As a result, in accordance with the limitations law on prison sentence, Rodrigues' jail time was extended to 2017. Nevertheless, after staying in prison for 34 years, Rodrigues was released on April 24, 2007. Now, I just gotta stop here. The man is in prison, just having a hell of a time, just killing whoever he wants, and they still release him? Wow. Upon his release, Rodrigues moved to Fortaleza, Brazil, where he worked as a caretaker. On September 15, 2011, Rodrigues was arrested on charges of a riot and deprivation of liberty in relation to crimes that he committed while he was detained in Sao Paulo. He was sentenced to serve 8 years in prison for these crimes. In 2018, Rodrigues was once again released from prison. Some psychiatrists have described Rodrigues as a psychopath, which means a person who has no remorse or compassion for others. It is a description that seems to fit perfectly for Rodrigues' personality, considering the manner with which he consistently disposed of people he believed were worthy of death. However, psychopaths typically do not develop a deep affection for people, and this does not really seem to agree with Rodrigues' behavior. But, it's clear from what Rodrigues did to revenge his mother's death that he had a deep affection for her. He might have even had some affection for his father, which led to the first murders he ever committed. Then there is also his girlfriend, whose death sent Rodrigues on a killing spree as he sought to revenge for his deceased girlfriend. Based on this, I believe Rodrigues would better be described as a sociopath. This captures his motivations to avenge the death of his mother and girlfriend. In 1982, some psychiatrists took some time to analyze Rodrigues, and they concluded that his greatest motivation in life was the violent affirmation of himself. Rodrigues' use of violence fed his ego as a strong personality. This is a mindset which seeds were formed in the abusive environment that he grew up in. The psychiatrists also described Rodrigues as paranoid and with an antisocial character. I agree with that. In an interview, Rodrigues revealed that he enjoyed the thrill of killing other criminals. When describing how he went about his crimes, Rodrigues said that his favorite way of killing criminals was stabbing or hacking them to death with blades. In some instances, he would prefer to capture the criminals and torture them for long periods. He confessed to doing this whenever he was motivated by anger. This was an approach he commonly took against career criminals and drug dealers. Today, Pedro Rodrigues Filho is a free man. I'm very surprised at that, having completed his respective jail terms according to Brazilian law. He currently owns a YouTube channel where he talks about his past and his time in prison. Now, I went back and I tried to find his YouTube channel, but I don't know where it at. If I can find it, I'll put it in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, then kindly give us a thumbs up. Also subscribe to our channel and hit the notification icon so you do not miss any of our awesome videos. See you next time. I'm out.